Hi, my name is Harry T, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma recognizes the magic of storytelling, from personal experiences to stories of adventure, from tales of resilience to finding joy in the simple things. This story seeks to inspire, entertain, and educate because there is power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Odejuma. I'm so excited about today's show because I have a very fantastic guest with me. He's an actor, and he's also African. So, I love my Africans. Hey Anthony, how you doing today?
Hi, Harry. I'm good. I am awake. It's early.
Yeah. I appreciate you doing this with me though. I appreciate your time because I know you're currently in the middle of your play, but you took out the time to come on the podcast. So I'm really excited. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, it was a pleasure of mine to come on this.
Yeah. And a little backstory, I went to see When We Were Found at Penumbra Theater, and that's how I discovered Anthony because it's like a two-person show, and he's on. He plays he plays multiple characters on the show. But you have to go see the play to know that. I'm like, this person sounds way too African to just be playing an African character. And so we connected, and yeah, I'm really excited to get to dive into this conversation and get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you. Yes, and honestly, it actually makes me so happy to hear you say that because my goal always is like when I'm playing African on stage is to like be as authentic as possible. You know what I mean? Like really go there.
Yeah, for sure. We need that authenticity, from folks who are going to be embodying, our characterizations and stuff. And, I love that right now, the Black diaspora in general is trying to be more inclusive of all the stories of the diaspora. So we're telling Caribbean stories, African stories, African American stories, Black British stories. So everything is being told and being shared, and I really kind of like that
Yeah.
in this new artistic renaissance that we're in. So I love that. But you were raised in Ghana, born and raised in Ghana, and now you live in LA. So how's that journey been for you? Coming from a West African country to living in the West, in quotes, and yeah, what does that look like? And being an actor and chasing your acting dream in this country also. How's that process been for you?
Oh man, it's been a journey to say the
Mm,
least. Yeah, sometimes you just like you're living your life day to day and then you don't think about like the way that you started versus where you are now.
yeah.
And yeah, I feel like my life has been like a movie in a way. Like so yeah, I was born and raised in Ghana, like lived there my whole life. My dad left when I was like about 3 years old. Um for America. But I have an older brother, and I lived with my mom and my aunts and uncles and all them in Ghana. And yeah, grew up there, had my whole life there, never thought about America as like a place that I exactly wanted to be or anything. People travel all the time, but never thought about it until yeah, my dad brought me and my older brother to the US in
Mm,
2009. And when he brought us, we lived in Colorado, in Aurora, Colorado. So I ended up actually doing, a part of my growing up in Aurora. I went to middle school, like 1 year of middle school there. I went to high school in Aurora, and that change in culture was a little bit shocking, because I grew up my entire life around Ghanaians, like speaking, and it's so funny when I first got here, people were like, "You speak English so good." you know,
I get that a lot. Yeah.
sure you do, because it's like they're like, wait, just because you're African doesn't mean I don't speak English. What do you mean? Like, English is like our national language. Like,
Yeah, we were colonized.
yeah, we were colonized. Like, so yeah, so like, that part of it, the language part was whatever, but like it was really like people sort of seeing me as like a different person, which I had never experienced in my whole life, like being seen as different, even though I was black. Like I grew up around black people. And so coming here and all of a sudden me told you're black was like, whoa, like this is a different experience. So yeah, like I feel like I was having a lot of like identity crises, obviously,
Mm,
and on top of being African, and then yeah, and then eventually going to college in Denver, lived at home during college and stuff, and it was through college that I sort of discovered my sexuality, which I'm sure we'll get into more. And yeah, that also became another layer of like
mm,
difference, um, and
mm,
being othered, which I think honestly, to answer your question in a way, like feeling othered has always been my push forward. So like when I
mm,
got here and I was told you're other because you're black and you're African, I was like,
mm,
okay, great. How can I push forward to either like, initially it was like to um immerse myself in the culture, and then at some point I was like, oh, the other ring is actually a good thing. So how do I make it my like superpower?
mm,
Honestly, my other ring led me to leaving Denver when I was done with college to then go to grad school in San Diego. I went to grad school in San Diego, got my MFA in acting, and from yeah, then that was a whole 3 years of crazy experience. um, yeah, and then after I finished that in 2021, that led me to I went back home to Ghana for a little bit, lived in New York for like a second, and then yeah, moved to LA, and I have been there pursuing my career as an actor since, and it's been a journey.
it really has been a journey from what you would have described.
Yeah,
Moving to Colorado, I'm just trying to think about like how you're living in a predominantly black country, right? You're living, everybody's black in Ghana,
mhm,
and now you are. I've only been to when it comes to Colorado, I've only been to Denver, right?
uh-huh.
So I don't have an idea I'm not trying to assume what it's like living in Colorado, but I want to assume that it's not the most, it's not filled with a lot of melanin people, right? It's not like,
You funny enough,
you're not,
though, I will say this: Aurora specifically is actually very multicultural. Like,
okay.
it's very like immigrant heavy. So like, there are a lot of Ghanaians, there are a lot of Nigerians, there are a lot of like
Mhm.
African people in Aurora, and a
Okay.
lot of like the high school that I went to. It's called Overland High School, and like Overland is like the most like multicultural school. Like you would walk down the hallway and like see people for like from like Cambodia, from like wherever in the world. It was like so multicultural. So like yes, and but then it's so funny. Later on in Denver, when I went to college in Denver, which is literally like only miles apart, Aurora and Denver, Denver is very white.
Yeah. Yes. So it's like, even regardless of like, even in Aurora or in Denver, it's still a difference from there's something different when you are born and raised in an African country. Like when like growing up in Nigeria, you see a white person, you're like, oh, as opposed to here, you are the one that is the where you walk
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
And so I still have to say that that must have been a shift already
Mhm,
for you to navigate, and then having to now be discovering who you are as a queer person through that journey.
mhm,
So now you're in a different country.
mhm.
You are in a white PWI, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
and you are figuring out your sexuality.
Mhm.
What was that like? I'm just trying to just conceptualize that in my mind
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what it was like was that it was like difficult. Like it was difficult. Yet I think one thing about me is that like I I I approach difficulty with like opportunity. Like I'm always like, wait, what's the other side here? What's the bright side here? And so like when I first moved here, I mean, when I first moved to Colorado, I knew I was different because I was being told that all the time. And what's funny too is that like, Black Americans would also tell me I was different. Like, it would also be like, no, 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 but you're African, which is like different from what we are. And I was always like, wait, that's wild because like basically we're the same people, just your people were taken and mine stayed, you know? And so I feel like even that navigating relationships with like Black Americans when I first moved here was a little bit difficult because I remember because I grew up in the church, and so like we went to like a predominantly like Black American church, and we had like an African sector in the Black American church, and even my relationships with those like church folks who were Black Americans were very hard because in a way they saw me as different, and like I felt like I always had to sort of like um become like them, which just sounds so weird, but like I had to like change the way I speak a little bit. I had to like change the way that I approached people a little bit to sort of like feel like I belonged in that church. So that was like a layer that was really difficult. So then it's so funny because then once I went to college, which was a PWI, University of Denver, I remember I felt myself sort of not knowing who I was. Like I was like, okay, I'm not black enough for the Black people, and I'm not Christian enough now for the Christians. And now because I'm changing a lot, you know, partly because I want to, and partly because like that's just life. You change wherever you go. Now all of a sudden I'm also not African for the Africans. So I found myself being like, oh, I don't belong anywhere. And then on top of that, I sort of started figuring out my sexuality when I was in high school and then into college. And once I got into college and got into theater, I was then around a lot of queer people, a lot of gay people, a lot of lesbians, a lot of trans people, and um, all of a sudden I was like, oh, like they're actually helping me discover who I am more. And what's funny is a lot of those people were white. And so I've found like a lot of my friends were white because like felt like I belonged with them because I was a gay, Black African man trying to discover who they were. And sort of the only people who were like accepting me at the time were all these like white queer people. And so I feel like throughout my growing up, I was a bit of a shapeshifter. I was always like shapeshifting into like what culture I could like tap into that felt like I could get accepted. Yeah, because then once I got into college and at some point, like eventually it was like, I'm just gonna also can I cuss on this? I don't want to cuss.
Feel free, be yourself. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I was like, once I discovered who like the fuck I am, once I started really like, just really getting into that, like then I also felt ostracized fully from like my family and from like Africans and sometimes from Black people because it was just like, oh, now you're gay and you're African. Okay, now that's double strike there, and you're in theater, triple strike. In fact, you know what? Go away. It's not like I found myself a lot of times feeling alone, alone, sort of dejected. But then once I found my people, it was sort of like they didn't look like me. And so I was like, okay, great. Like, let me just be with the people who accept me, even if they don't look like me. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense. Like, it was just like, it's been like a journey like this throughout my life of like, oh, figuring out who I am based on where I am, based on who's going to accept me.
Yeah. But how have you navigated that? Because I feel like um the Black experience is multi-layered, it's nuanced based on where you were raised and how you were raised and how you showed up. Even the Black experience in the United States is also very nuanced in itself,
Mhm.
based on where you live in the country, who you're hanging out with, all that kind of stuff. And so how has that shifted for you now, after you've been here for a while, you've lived here for a while? What is I don't want to say what is the switch, but how would you say, how do you navigate now? Because I feel like, in ultimately, like, there has to be a level of solidarity
Mm,
and togetherness, for the Black diaspora, regardless of what part you come from, because our experiences navigating our Blackness in a predominantly white space is going to be very similar,
mm,
regardless of how we were raised and our previous experiences. Like I said, whether we're Black American or we're African or we're Caribbean or from the or Black British.
mhm.
So what is that like for you now,
Yeah.
years into living in the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question because I feel like, so I feel like I mentioned all of that. That I feel like most of that sort of shape shifting I was doing was when I was in my youth, right? When I was young and I was like, I don't know what to do. Once I actually finished college and moved to San Diego for grad school once again was like another like fully shifting in my life. And I feel like it was in grad school that I actually really discovered who I was as a black queer African man. Because I got to that school and unlike my college, which was like very white, my grad school in my class, in the classes that were around me, were a lot of black people. Like I all of a sudden was like, oh my god, I found my people, and a lot of black queer people also in grad school, which all of a sudden like I was like, it's so funny. Um, I feel like I remember in like the first year, I had a lot of my friends, who I love dearly, like sort of in subtle ways and sometimes not so subtle ways, be like, now girl, you need to be more like yourself. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, what do you mean? Like, I know who I am. What you mean? Da, 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 da. And they're like, but like, you're hiding. Like, you're putting
Mm-hmm.
on something. And like, I don't know what it is. And for a long time, I was like, oh, I once again was like, I thought I knew who I was. And I came here and now I'm being told I don't know who I am. And you know what? I was mad at them. But they were right because like, I feel like I had been putting on whiteness. Like I had been putting on what it means to be like a white person who like can get accepted by a lot of people. And it was in grad school that I learned like oh, I can be black, I can be gay, I can be African fully. Like in grad school, I started like sort of rediscovering my Africanness and like really steeping myself into that, like including my accent. Like I feel like for the longest time I used to like try to sound like very white, like and like after a while, I was like, baby, let me just sound like myself, like, and just be myself. And I feel like in grad school, like, I really started actually creating relationships with other Black people in a way that I had not created before. And so all of a sudden, I felt like, oh, like the thing you just brought up of like, there are diasporic conversations and relationships we can have. Because I was one of three, I would say, African people. Like there was almost like an African person each year of grad
Mm-hmm.
school, and I was like the one, for my year. And so at first I was like, oh, okay, that's a little hard, but then I was like, oh, but me and my friend Cornelius, who was in my class, he's from South Carolina, and like in a way, we actually bond like in a very deep way because he understands the African experience and I understand the African American experience. And we're both queer and we're both like trying to be actors. And like I all of a sudden started finding commonalities between me and all the other Black people in the program. And by the end of those 3 years, there was no longer me putting on anything. There was no longer like me trying to shape shift into something else. Like I feel like I fully became who I was. I
Mm-hmm.
fully became who I was. Like now I'm like at a place where I'm like, oh, I have no doubt of who I am as a queer African Black man. Like that's who I am. And yeah, and through that, like I feel like I've started to understand that like, oh, Africans and African Americans and like Black British people, we're all the same. We just have different experiences. In fact, like you said, like Black people in America, well, someone who's from Cali has a very different experience from somebody who's from South Carolina. But baby, we're still the same because at the end of the day, once we're in a room where we're not the majority, or when we even are the majority, it's still like we still have to like create solidarity to move forward. Like we can't have these like interpersonal fightings because like, oh, you have this experience and you have this experience. Like, no, like what's beautiful about us as Black people is that like we are multicultural. Like we have so much layers to our living, that like the only way we can actually like move forward is by like appreciating those layers and coming together as a whole.
Mm.
Yeah, and I fully believe in that. I fully believe in that with like my 10 toes.
Like your tattoos. Um, we're gonna have to take you back a little bit because I'm very fascinated by your journey as someone who your life has been a journey of discovery, right? From what you've shared. But at what point did you realize that storytelling was a thing for you? You wanted to tell stories,
Mm,
and when did you also realize that acting was going to be your medium
mm.
for telling those stories?
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, I feel like, I feel like I've always been a storyteller. Like
Mhm,
I feel like Africans, baby, we tell stories. Like,
mhm,
growing up, like, your aunts would come to the house and be like, oh, shit, baby, I see him, like, and start like going on and on about something. And you're like, okay, like, auntie, what happened? And so I feel like it's always been in my bones. My mother is like the most like juicy storyteller that I feel like I know. But I really didn't discover that it was something I wanted to do until high school. Um, uh, I used to do speech and debate in high school, and I used to do like the speech side of speech and debate, which is like actually a lot about like telling speeches and telling stories. Like there's these events called interpretation. So like you do like dramatic interpretation or a comedic interpretation or duo, which is like two people where you can't look at each other and you can't touch. It's like very funny. um, and I used to do I did that throughout my entire high school experience, and I was very good at it. I was very good at it. I like went to nationals, like all those things, and and throughout that whole time, in my mind, like also a conversation I had with my dad at the time, he was like, "You can either be a lawyer, a doctor, or engineer." Like,
That's so real. That is so
you
real.
know.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
doctor, like nothing else. Maybe pharmacist,
mhm,
like you know what I mean. Like
mhm.
it's like that's it. So I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'll be a engineer. And then when I was a junior in high school, I love telling the story. When I was a junior in high school, so speech judges would like write on like little notes and like give you comments and stuff. And one speech judge wrote on my ballot. She wrote, "Anthony should be on Broadway with his own show."
Oh.
Like and then we're like excellent job, blah 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 blah. But at the bottom of that, it was like Anthony should be on Broadway with his own show, and I was like, what's Broadway? I grew up in an African household, like that was not a part of
Mhm,
our language. Like being an artist, like was so not a thing. So I was like,
mhm.
okay. Until I remember I like went home to like my big desktop computer, like went and like started searching, and I was like, what's Broadway? And like started like looking, and literally over a weekend, I like watched so many videos. I was like watching all these YouTube videos and stuff. And I came back to school the next Monday and like told one of my best friends at the time, we're no longer friends. For this reason, we're no longer friends. I told him at the time, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on Broadway. Like, I want to be an actor. I think that's what I want to do. And like, he was like, really, an actor? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't know. There's something about it. And he's like, you didn't start when you were young. Like, you'll never make it.
Damn.
Damn, it's right. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, hello, you could be at least encouraging. And I remember I started to side eye him from then on out, and then we at some point we stopped being friends because I was like, oh, you are not a good person for me. Um,
Oh, damn.
yeah, it really, I mean, he really kind of was like laid on me about it, and I was like, okay, whatever. And throughout the rest of my junior year and my senior year, I took like one acting class when I was in high school, and I like loved it. I loved it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And it wasn't until college, and I remember once I was going to college and having to convince my African father that I wanted to do acting.
How did that go? What was that like?
Woo! Bad. Bad. Like, I mean, he was like, what are you doing with your life? Like, like you think you're just gonna go be out there, like you're not gonna make any money. Like, how are you gonna take care of a family? That was like the big thing. How are you gonna take care of a family? That kind of thing.
Mm,
And I was like, I don't know, like I'll figure it out, but like it's just something I want to do, just let me be free. And like he was like, no, 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 no. Like he literally would not let me. And so he eventually, like, one of my aunts was like, you can maybe study that and also maybe study something else. And I was like,
mm,
fine, I'll be a double major in theater and communications.
okay.
I was like, I'll do something else. And you know what? I tried to double major. I ended up not double major. I minored in communications, which, so I got a little degree. Um, but it really wasn't until college that, like, I started full throttle. Like, when I got to college, I started taking acting classes left and right, theater classes left and right. Like I started like auditioning for like shows in the program. Started auditioning for stuff outside of the program. Like I started auditioning professionally. So then it it was in college that it dawned on me like, oh, acting and storytelling, like, and I like to describe myself as a storyteller more than an actor, because like acting is only one part of it, like I like to tell stories in so many different mediums, and like, yeah, it felt like theater and acting and all that was like the medium that I felt like I could connect to people. Like I feel like it
Mm,
started with me wanting to connect with myself, and
mm,
then it became like, oh, once I connected to myself, now I want to connect with other people and like really tell stories to like just like dig into parts of life that like are hard to navigate sometimes. So yeah,
that's real.
that's how it started.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious, about like what are some of the Broadway shows that really like have made an impact on you, and also what were the shows that you auditioned for? What other shows have you like auditioned for, done through that process? I'm just curious about that piece.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god, it's so funny. When I first started like, discovering like Broadway and all that, I remember there was this show called Kinky Boots.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. Do you know Kinky Boots?
I know Kinky Boots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember it's so funny, like that's how it started for me, because like it's like the gayest show. Like, like it's so like, so not like my Christian African upbringing at all. And I remember I discovered it because I was it's so funny. Billy Porter likes to tell this story of himself that actually like it's so funny. I sort of had a similar version of his story that happened to me because of him. I was like washing dishes like one Sunday night, like at home, watching like the TV, and like the Tonys came on. And this was like what, the Tonys of 2013 or something like that. This is when I had just first discovered Broadway, and I was like watching it, and I was like, "Wait, what is that?" And I saw these people performing on screen, and I was like, "Wait, this is wild!" And so I went and literally sat my ass down, and then Kinky Boots came on and started performing. And by the end of their performance, I was gobsmacked. Like I was like,
Mhm.
what is that? I was like, what is that? Like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be on stage. I want to be performing. Like, that's what I want to do. And so I remember I like just got so obsessed with that show and like wanted to be like Lola in Kinky Boots so bad. So like that was one, and then like eventually it was like Wicked. It was like one that like obviously like I became obsessed with. Everyone's obsessed with Wicked now, and like it was like that, and it's so funny actually. Recently, I remembered that one of the shows that like really I became that touched me when I was like younger as well, because I also used to watch a lot of like bootlegs from like Broadway
Mm.
shows. And one bootleg that hit me like a ton of bricks was Next to Normal. Do you know that?
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Yeah.
Oh, it's a great one. It's basically about like this family navigating a mother who is mentally ill and like dealing with like mental illness and like the musical talks more about like relationships and like and
Mm.
how drugs can help and hurt, and like it's just so layered, and there's like a revival of it in London right now, and so I just like remembered it. I was like, oh, whoa. I remember at the time, because also the other thing is I've always sang my whole life. But I remember at some point I was like, musicals really aren't for me. Like, I don't know, like if I can like do like the high kick and all that, all that. But I remember Next to Normal was one where I was like, oh, the acting was like the forward motion of that thing was like, it was that. And then the singing and everything else became like secondary. And I was like, oh, like that's what I want to do. Like, I want to be an actor. Like, I love singing, obviously, but like, I don't want to just do like frilly musicals. Like, I want to like just like tell stories and like make people laugh and like, all that. So yeah, it was like those three musicals. And then once I was in college, like, I remember I did one of my first shows I did in college was called Stage Door. It's this. I'm like, I hope I don't offend anyone, but it's a stupid ass fucking.
Oh my god. I'm gonna have to Google stage door
I know.
now.
I'm
Stage
gonna
door.
send it to you. It's like a play from like the 1930s, and like
Well, here.
it's all about all these actresses trying to make it in New York, and like I played one of the men, the gentlemen callers, and that, and I was like, what is this? I was like, I came to college to be a storyteller. What is this? But then I started doing like other stuff, and like one of my first professional shows I did was called Tartuffe. And it's like old
Mm,
French comedy, and like even though it's like old and French, like I remember like I played like a black man and that had dreads and everything, and like it was like everything. I was like, oh, this is it. Like these are the
mm,
things that I want to do, and so like I started with a lot of like sort of like classical work, but then eventually like
mm.
especially once I got to grad school was doing more like contemporary work, which was like really really cool.
That is pretty cool. Is there like a Broadway show that you, or like a show in general? Like, are there like maybe like say 4 or 5 shows that you really, really want to do? I'm guessing Kinky Boots is one of them, but I could be assuming.
Yeah, honestly, you know what? I'm gonna put it out there. Sure, I want to do kinky boots. I know kinky
Okay.
cute. Like, I feel like I could really be, and you saw the show. Like, I mean, in this show, like, you kind of get to do like be a little sexy, like, kind of like little things. So, like,
Hmm.
yeah, like I would say that's one of them. Um, oh, it's so hard for me nowadays because I feel like nowadays all I want to do is like new plays. Like
Mm.
the things that I want to do are not written yet or are being written right now. Um,
Mm.
and so like it's hard for me to be like, oh, these Broadway shows I want to be in. Da 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 da. Oh, but like for example, like a show that I recently saw on Broadway that like touched me and like I would want to do something like that was Jaja's African hair braiding.
I love that show. I love that show. Oh my god, I love that show. I didn't see it on Broadway. I saw it in Chicago at the Shakespeare Theater.
Yeah,
I think they were touring. They were doing like a mini tour. I don't know if it was the tour. I don't know if
yeah,
the theater put it up, but I
yeah.
saw it there.
My
It
friend,
was
you
so.
may have seen my friend Leovina is in that production.
Oh, the one in Chicago?
Yeah, the one in Chicago and the one that's touring around.
Probably. I saw it there, and then I saw there's a theater in is this South Fulton? It's like a suburb in Atlanta.
Mm.
They did it. So they did a good job too, also.
Oh,
But I saw it in Chicago. I was like, this is so. It is so. Jajas is so relevant right now in the way in the world that we are in.
yes.
It is authentically African to the bone
Mhm.
in a way that celebrates the different parts of who we are, from Nigeria to Ghana to Sierra Leone. And then also the diasporic thing we talked about earlier on, right? And the camaraderie between Black people and African Americans and African people. It's just everybody was there. It was a diverse audience. Everybody was laughing. Everybody loved it.
Mhm.
I love Jajas. I could talk about
I
Jajas
I could talk about that
for
all day.
you know,
Yes.
that is such a good show, yeah.
Yeah,
And you would thrive in that show, actually.
I would love. Oh my gosh, I would
Yeah.
love to be like the gentleman in that show. And also like I love you, as you've seen already. Like I love playing different roles. Like I love being in one show where I can play like 5 different roles and switch. And like that is a play and a kind of play that like I want to do so bad. I wanna oh man, yeah, that would so like I guess yeah, Jaja's would be one of them. And like and plays like Jaja's. Like I wanna like I actually think what's funny is I think over the years, like I've now like really become very clear, like I want to tell African stories. Like, and I know that puts me in such a niche, but like I sort of don't care because like the niche is actually what makes me powerful. Like, I want to tell African stories. Like, I want to tell queer African stories. And I'm trying to write also some of those stories as well, and not just wait for other
Mhm.
people to do it for me. And so, like,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the kinds of things that I really want to do.
Yeah, and heavy on the queer African stories. I feel like there is an idea that, which is why I like when we're found, which we're going to get into
Mhm.
in a little bit. But the idea that when you grow up as a queer person on the continent, the idea that your queerness
Yes.
is as a result of Western influences, right? Or you watched a lot of American movies, or you are influenced by the culture of the folks that that live in wherever they live,
Mhm.
that us as Africans are not queer in ourselves, right?
Mhm.
But just learning that there are people who may live in the villages and may have no access
Yes.
to foreign content at all,
Yeah.
but are still queer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That we have ancestors who were queer. We have people who don't speak a lick of English, but know how to articulate their love for the same sex, or know how to articulate their transness.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, we have to be able to tell our stories because it solidifies that queerness is African, right?
Yes.
And it's a huge lie that it is of a Western influence or import or whatever they want to paint it
Yep.
as.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, you articulated that perfectly, Harry. Like
Mhm.
that. I mean, it's so being queer is being African. Like, it just is. And what's funny is that, like true story. Like, when I was a child in Ghana, like, before I knew even what America was, like, before I even knew how to articulate words, I knew I was gay. Like, I knew, like, I remember I went to my mom when I was like a very young boy, and I used to have like a crush on like one of my best friends. I was like little, who had like, it was Kenneth. Oh God, I was obsessed with him. And I went to my mom, and I was like, I know everyone can have a girlfriend, but could you have a boyfriend? And she was like, she's like,
Mm.
wait, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know, Georgina is like my friend who's a girl. Kenneth could also be my boyfriend, right? And like, she was like, yes, but just don't say that. She's like, just don't say it, please, like, please. And I was
Mm.
like, okay. And I knew, even before I could articulate who I was, that
Mm.
I was gay, I was queer. And so, like, yeah, like, and then when I went back home to Ghana for the first time in 12 years, I went back in 2021, I was told, like, almost point blank by almost everyone, including my mother, that like, like, now that you're gay, like, you're not Ghanaian, you're not African.
Oh wow.
Like, straight up was being told, like, you can't be African and gay. Like you said, that's the Western influence. They've changed you over there, and it's like, wait, what? Like, I was always this way. I just now have the words. I have the language.
Mm.
I have the wherewithal to actually fully be myself, right? And
Mm.
and for some reason they just, like, do not. Yeah, I could go into this all day. It's,
Yeah, and that had to have been hard. And I mean, and I know that, like, your Instagram bio, for example, says your mom wants you to be a pastor. So just curious about, like, and that was funny though. But like, hearing this context now, just curious about what is that relationship like, not just even with your mom, but also with your dad,
yeah,
who you kind of grew up with right here in the States.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's so funny because now that you're asking, I also want to know your story because I'm like, I, I know this one interview
That
with me, but like, I'm like, I want to hear the Harry story too.
you know, you probably will. You probably will. But you have center stage. You are the guest on the show. You are. This is your stage.
Okay, sure, fine, okay, we're gonna find out. But yeah, yeah, no, yeah, my Instagram bio says, my mother wishes I was a pastor,
Mhm,
and that's not just that she wished; it's like she still wishes that I was a
mhm,
pastor.
mhm,
So growing up, I grew up in the church. Talk about Western
mhm,
influence. like the church is a Western.
Clock that. Clock that. They're not ready for that
They
conversation,
are
though.
not ready for that conversation. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
not ready for that conversation though. Like that actually the reason why you think my being is inherently wrong is because of the Western influence you've gotten from the church that says that my being is wrong. Because maybe we've always
Hmm.
existed. You know, like the witch doctors and the like people who live in the like the woods in Ghana and in I'm sure Nigeria, a lot of them are queer. That's why they are able to like be able to like access the gods, right? And so it's funny that like all of a sudden we're like villainizing those people because
Hmm.
of this thing called church. Anyway, that's I can rant about forever.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, no, my relationship with my dad is that we don't have a relationship anymore. Um,
Mm.
it's
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I've done a lot of work, a lot of therapy to unpack that, and it no longer like sort of it affects me in a way that it used to. I moved here, right? I didn't live with my mom anymore, and so my mom and I we sort of like always have had a relationship, but sort of like through phone calls and all that. And so I'll get to her in a second. But with my dad, um, I got kicked out of the house when I was in college um, because of being gay. Like he barged
Mm.
into my room one night and was like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "Oh," and I knew in my heart of hearts, I was like, if I come out to this man, the result will not be good. Like I'm either
Mm.
or I'm going to be kicked out, or something terrible is going to happen to me. My dad is like a deacon at church. You know what I mean? I grew up, I grew up like honestly, I went to like preacher's camp when I was 13 because that's what I was supposed to be was to be a preacher. Like and yeah, and I think when I was growing up, I that's something I did want because I thought, oh yeah, like I was put on this earth to like preach the word of God, and so like okay, cool, that's something I want. And like I loved church, like I loved the community aspect of it, I loved the singing aspect of it. But once the church started to tell me that like I couldn't be who I was, I started to get
Mm.
distant from it because I was like, oh, God preaches about love, but now you're
Yeah.
telling me that like I can't be loved by by the entity that created me to be exactly who I am. Like that's I just could not understand that. And so I started to sort of distance myself from the church. But I was still being forced to go every Sunday. I had to go to church with my dad. And so when he barges into my room and says that, I was like, no, I'm not. Like I lied to him. I was like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? And he's like, I know you are. Like I've seen your Facebook. Like I know the people you hang out with. Blah 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 blah. Like, but you need to figure it out because I can't have a gay son in my house.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I don't know what you want me to say to that. And he's like, just figure it out. Figure it out. You're either gonna be gay and leave my house, or you're gonna change and go to church and da 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 da. And I was like, okay, well, I'll take your options into consideration. Let me just go back to bed because I'm trying to go to sleep. I have school the next day. I have a show to do the next day. Like I'm not thinking about this right
Mhm.
now. So I really did not take it seriously because you know they make threats all the time, and you're like, okay,
Mhm.
whatever. Sure enough, a week later, he like grabs my keys. I'm like getting ready to go do like one of my first professional shows in Denver. And and he goes, figure out where you're gonna go sleep tonight because you can't come back here.
Oh wow.
True story. And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, I am so serious. Like, I cannot have a gay person in my house. I was like, okay. I like basically grabbed like two or three pieces of clothing. I was like running late to go do my show. Well, that's always happened to me. Like bad things happen to me almost every time something really great is happening to me at the same time.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, great. I like grab all my shit and like I leave. I go and like wait for the bus. I'm like on the bus going that it didn't feel real, you know. I was like that
Mhm.
didn't feel real, and so I go do my show. and I'm doing a show called The Christians.
Oh wow.
The Christians by Lucas Nath. And it's a show about like church and about like when church starts to like defy what people like believe, like how do people navigate, and like these two preachers basically fighting the whole time. And I'm sitting there, I was like part of the choir, and I'm praising God, and I'm in my head I'm thinking, I'm praising God, but because of God my dad just kicked me out of the house.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then yeah, and then the show ends. Like I was like, I don't know what to do. I like go back to to my college, and I end up sleeping in the couches of the green room. I
Mm.
was practically homeless for 3 months.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it was crazy. Like, and for the longest time, nobody knew that this was happening to me, and and I was so I was like, I was sort of one thing about me, I'm cunning. Like I will find a way to make it work. So like, yeah, I was making it work. Nobody knew. I was like, I didn't have a home to be in. Um, and I remember eventually, like one of my teachers, like found out. That's also another long story. It's like he found out. That teacher sort of changed my life, and like he's like, okay, great. He's like, um, I won't let you sleep in the green room. You can sleep in my office. And I was like,
Mm.
he's like, I wish I could like bring you home, but that's like not allowed. And so he's like, you can sleep in my office. I'll give you a key to my office. And so yeah, I slept in this office. And so in between the green room and the office, that was my living situation for 3 months until eventually like I found an apartment near the campus and stuff like that, and then moved into that apartment. And then a year later, I was in San Diego. So yeah, that all was like the way in which my African father like approached my sexuality, was to like kick me out of the house. I tried going back. Like this was again a time where I was trying to shapeshift, and I was like, I went back, and I was like, I'm not gonna change who I am. But
Mhm.
I remember a conversation I had with him. I was like, if I've done something to offend you, like I would love to know what those things are, and like I would love to like fix them. And he's
Mm.
like, well, you're a bad kid, and blah blah blah, and all these people have influence on you. And like he just went through a list, and I was like, all those things are made up.
Mm.
You just think horribly of me because of my sexuality.
Mm.
Can't change that, and so I'm gonna grab the rest of my shit, and I'm gonna leave this house, and I would never see you again until you come reaching for me. And over the years, like I've tried many times to like reach him, especially like once like I like did therapy in grad school, and like realized that like, oh, I actually need to like sort of release him from my life. Like I can't hold on to it so much. I like called him and like read a letter to him, and like I was like, hey, like, I just want to have a relationship with you if you want, but I will
Mm.
not reach out to you unless you reach out to me again. And what? So that was 2020. 5 years later, not a word from my father. And that's just what it is. But like I actually thank him sometimes for that push, because like in
Mm.
a way like that really forced me to like really dig into my sexuality and be like, okay, is this really who I am? Like, am I being influenced? Like, I really had to like think about all the things through all these things, and I realized I was like, oh no, this is has always been who I am. Like I
Mm.
had conversations with my mom where I was like, remember when I asked you, like, can I have a boyfriend? Like, why did you think I asked you that? Like, I was always gay, and
Mhm.
like, my relationship with her, I still have a relationship with her, but like when I went back to Ghana, that was a whole other thing. Like, I mean, I just had such a hard time being back home with her. We were fighting every day because I was gay, because I am gay, and like she just would never change, and I can't ask
Mm.
her to change. Like I no longer feel the need to like ask people to change for me. I'm like, either come aboard or don't, because I am not about to change for anybody else, and I will not expect the same of you. And so in a
Mm.
way, we have a relationship where we just don't talk about it. And she still literally so this will call me sometimes and be like, I wish you were, that you would be a pasta and da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, keep dreaming, girl. 'Cause
Wow.
yeah, I'm like, keep dreaming. And you know what? And part of the reason why I put it on my Instagram is because I I was like, I've had a lot of conversations with friends over the years about this thing, and I was like, and a lot of the things that has come up is like, oh, I am a preacher.
Mm,
Preach through storytelling. Like I
yeah.
through being a queer black man on stage, like and on screen. Like that's the way that I'm preaching to the world is like acceptance and like and how to
Mm,
be yourself because I get to be myself. Um
yeah.
so yeah, in a way I'm like, oh, I am fulfilling my mother's wishes.
Yeah, that is real.
But yeah, yeah. So
But it has to be no, I understand, but it also has to be like, navigating like family that is, I think that that's like no matter how much we believe or we trust that um we are fine, by ourselves and we don't need anybody. Like I feel like our families are still very like important to us
yeah.
in a way. And so just hearing your story, it's a one of great strength, um, but also like holding that with care too,
Mhm.
considering that you've lost like that is a relationship that's been lost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's still gonna be hard to navigate regardless of if I'm like if I'm okay and comfortable with myself and I'm fulfilled. It's still a relationship that's lost. You know?
Yeah. No, you're yeah, thank you for saying that. You're so right. Like it's so funny, as I was talking about this right now. I was like, oh, I feel like I have not been affected by it actually in a long time. And like right now I feel like a little bit affected by it. And I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm,
there is like I don't feel affected by it in a sense of like, oh no, like I don't have my like I'm like, oh, that's fine. But I think in a way I'm sad. I'm sad that like my dad doesn't get to see who I
mm,
am. Like I'm sad that like I don't get to like invite him to come see my play in Minnesota. Like like a play that actually he might love because it's like so African and so funny and like you know what I mean like it yeah, it makes me a little bit sad that like in a way he's chosen to like approach our relationship that way when like if my dad called me today and was like I want to have a relationship with you now. I'd be like, yes, let's go. Let's go. It would have to be on my terms.
mhm,
Because one thing about it, I'm not about to change for you. But
mhm,
like but I am very much open to that. And I think it's sad that like a lot of Africans and a lot of people in the world just like allow that sort of thinking to like ruin relationships. I'm like, yeah, and the thing that actually makes me sad for is like when I was back home in Ghana, like I had little nephews and nieces who are like, I'm like looking at them, I'm like, baby, you're probably gay. And it made me sad for them because I'm like, oh, but you live here where I know it's
mm,
gonna be so difficult for you to be who you are. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, that those are the moments that like it tugs at my heart. It's like, oh, I just want to stay away.
yeah, and just even the anti-gay laws, back home. I know that Ghana is dealing with theirs. We dealt with ours in Nigeria. We currently have three anti-gay laws right now,
Oh,
and I know that Ghana had so I just imagine living under that kind of system and now trying to navigate that is it's very difficult.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
it
I
is.
wanna, I wanna, yeah, you wanna, did you want to say something?
No, 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 no. All I was gonna say is when I was back home is when it really started to like take flight. It's called like
Yeah,
the family traditions law or something like,
yeah,
and it's just I mean it makes me so angry. It makes me so
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I wanna bring us back to something lighter.
Please.
uh, something a bit lighter is when we're found. At the Penumbra Theater. Great. By the time this episode will probably air, you probably will be done with the show. But also like such a good show. I really enjoyed it. Did like a short recap on my Instagram. I think that it is. I was just really. It's very artistic, so you have to watch intensely to get it. it doesn't try to be deep, but it is deep. So you have to understand what the themes are critically. But it's also very good, and like I said, I like that, you know, it's set on the shores of Ghana, right? It's just so. Tell me about how did you find out about the play? You know, what was the process like for you? Because you also play multiple characters on that play, so you are bringing different emotions and feelings to each character to make them distinct and unique. So just give me the tea about when we are found
Yes,
from start to finish.
yes. Oh my God, no, I want to give you all the tea. Yeah. So first of all, thank you once again for like coming to see the play and and for reaching out to me about how much it touched you. Like
Mm,
it really means the world. Like you are who I do it for. Like
mm,
you, like for queer Africans. I'm just like, oh, like that. Yeah, this whole process has been such a whirlwind with how much it's like moved me as an artist and as a human being.
mm.
Um, yeah, so thank you for that. I just wanted to say that out loud. And yeah, no, it's so funny. It's so funny. Danye Arlov, who is the playwright of we call it a fable. We're not calling this a play. We call it a fable, which is also very African in the way that
Yeah, it is very African. Yeah.
yes. Yeah, Danya Arlov is an amazing playwright, like an incredible playwright who's like been produced everywhere. Wrote this play, which was commissioned by Penumbra. So it's been written specifically for Penumbra, and hopefully, it gets done everywhere else. And wrote this play. Asked his friend, who's also my friend, Lamar Perry, to direct it, to direct a workshop of it. This was 2 years ago, and Lamar picked up the phone and called me and was like, I have a role for you that I think is perfectly made for you. And I was like,
Mm,
what is it? And like, he's like, well, it's still being written. He's like, it's still being written, so really, I don't have a script for you. But here's the theme: is that it's set in Ghana. It's about two lovers who get separated at sea, and one has to go seeking the other. And I was like, I don't even need any convincing. I'm there. I'm there. And so,
mm,
literally, the next week, like I was on a plane to come to Minnesota to do a workshop of this fable that we're in right now, and when we sat down on that table on the first day and we read it out loud. Actually, initially I was playing the seeker, like the other role. Yeah, it's
mm.
over.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll get into how like now I've come to play the other one that I'm like, oh wait, I'm so glad like it's sort of switched because like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine you as a seeker. I was like, you could do it. You're an actor. You could do it. I'm not gonna knock you. You could do it. You're an actor. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like the other roles were made for you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
no, they were made for me. Yeah, no, truly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so funny when we sat down. Yeah, I read The Secret, but the thing that hit me was that like it was set in Ghana. I was like when do I get to do plays set in Ghana? Like that's
Yeah.
and to play like and then on top of that to play a queer African Ghanaian. I was like, whoa. And Danye wrote this without knowing who I was. So
Mm.
like that just was like divine intervention there. And like Lamar like picking up the phone and going, he literally was like, I cannot imagine anybody else doing this except for you.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, like I just have to accept that like this is meant for me. And
Yeah.
and just like live fully in it. So yeah,
Yeah.
we did that workshop. It was great. Um, and years later, Lamar was like, we're gonna do a production of it. Like, just keep your calendar open. And I was like, okay, sure. I didn't hear anything for like months, and I was like, okay, I'm keeping my calendar open, but like, is this gonna happen for real?
Mm.
and and then yeah, it eventually like worked out, and yeah, I once again got another call that it was like, oh, now we actually want you to play the other part of it, which is that all the roles that you see. So like for people who don't know, like I play the sun, the fish, the moon, and the wind, and then I also play the
I
found.
found. Yeah.
To play the found, and yeah, and man too, and like the last part of it, and this process this time has been like life altering. Like I love playing the Seeker, obviously. Like I think it's really cool. But like this other part of it was like tailor made for me. Like
Mhm.
I I I have never once like been in something where I get to play so many variations of who I am as
Mm.
Anthony, who I am as a gay Ghanaian man. Like, I get to play the sexuality of myself. I get to play like the funny, cunning part of myself. I get to play like the African uncle part of myself. I get to
Mhm.
play the like African auntie with the wind, part of myself. Like, I get to play all these versions of myself that like I've always dreamed of playing, and that and honestly, I have to thank all my African aunts and uncles and my mom that I grew up with because they've given me so many characters.
That's real. That is real.
Like,
Our African uncles and aunties will bring the
oh, they
dramatics,
will
and
bring that drama.
they will bring it. So yeah, I'm here for it.
Truly, truly. It's so funny. Recently, somebody asked me, like, "Oh, is it hard to play?" And I was like, "No, trust me, it is not
Mhm.
hard to tap into these people because I know them in my bones. I know them so well,
Mhm.
and I get to play myself. Like, I get to play myself in the found. Like it's like it has really sort of like changed my life and changed the way I want to approach my artistry. That like I am
Yeah.
really like capable of doing all these things,
Mhm.
becoming all these variations, and like and I get to really stretch myself when I'm up in this like hour and 5 minute show and just like, get to play
Mhm.
all these people and get to and honestly and the biggest part of it for me is I get to make people laugh.
Yes, you do. You definitely do. You definitely do.
I love to make
Yeah.
people laugh, and so, like, getting to do it in this way is, it's a joy. So, yeah, that's how the process has gotten to be.
Yeah. What are you gonna miss from the play? Once you're all wrap, what are you gonna miss? And what do you want the next theater or producer, actor who's gonna make the play? What do you want them to take away or know from
Mm.
doing it?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah. Well, first of all, I hope I'm the only one doing it. It better be me, Donnie, Lamar. Oh, they know we've had conversations, but yeah, I'm gonna miss being able to play variations of myself. Like
Mm,
I'm gonna miss like the sexuality of it. I'm gonna miss
mm,
the tailor madeness of this. Like I get up on this stage. It's so funny. Actually, every night right before I go up, because also the fable starts with a dance, and that
mhm,
dance is so hard. It is not easy. Um,
mhm,
and so every night I have to be like, "Ooh, okay, okay, here we go, here we go." But I'm actually even gonna miss that because, like, in a way, I feel like I get shot out of a cannon every night in a way that, like, sort of
mm,
it gets my senses wired. In a way
mm,
that like I don't always get to play in everything that I do.
yeah,
And so I'm gonna miss all those things, and I would say, and I'm gonna miss the people here. I'm gonna miss the people. I'm gonna miss Halen, like working with Halen. I'm gonna miss just the people who have touched this play and have made it happen. Um,
yeah,
and to answer your second question, yeah, the thing that I'd say for people who get to produce this and get to make this, because I really do hope it gets to like get made everywhere because it needs to,
mhm,
is remember that at the center of this, this fable is about being queer, being African, being black. Like those three things and more have to be at the
mm,
center of the storytelling of this. Like you can't have the Africanness in this play without having the queerness. Like you can't have the pain of this play without having the laughter of this play. Because one thing that's
Yeah.
I find as queer Africans is that like we can laugh, we can laugh like crazy, and then we can cry when we just need to let it out. And like I don't ever want people to forget that sort of like funniness of this thing
Yeah.
that comes from being a true queer African Black person in this world. Because our
Mm.
pain is also our laughter. It's also our strength. It's also our like our sexiness. We're sexy because there's so much pain, you know?
That's real. That is real. That is real. Before we wrap up this episode, I want to do a quick like Anthony trivia rapid fire situation. I saw that you went to Cowboy Carter in LA. And I can tell that you're a Beyonce fan. You're in the Beehive.
Oof.
So give me like what are like your top three Beyonce songs?
Oh. Oh, that is so. Why would you do this to me, Harry?
We gotta know what people want to know. The people want to know.
People want to know. Oh my god! I'm okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna preface this by saying these are not my these are not my only three Beyonce
Hmm.
favorites because it really the gamut runs deep. But I would say one of my absolute favorites is Diva.
Okay.
Diva down. Like, and I think part of it is because I Cowboy Carter. I was this close to Beyonce. Like,
Okay.
she was right there, which was crazy. And she performed Diva like right in the middle of the stage, like where I was, and it blew my mind. It
Okay.
it took me, and I always knew that was one of my favorite songs, but all of a sudden I was like, oh, this might be one of my favorite songs of all time. Like it really does it for me. Um, she ain't no diva, like like oh, just like
Did she point at you when she
yeah,
said she had no
yeah.
diva?
I wish she did. I wish she did. 'Cause that would have been that would have been everything. That would have been everything. Oh
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I'll say diva. I love diva. Um. Oh. Okay. I will also say one of my other favorites is Freakum Dress.
Okay, that's a good one.
Like,
Yeah.
I love Freakum. I mean, I'm just like when I'm getting ready and I put on Freakum, I'm just like, oh my god. I just it be getting me right. So I would say Freakum. And also these change over time, obviously, you know. And then honestly, I have to say Alien Superstar.
Okay.
I say Alien Superstar because I also thought about Blow. Blow is also one of my oh god, I love her. But Alien Superstar because it's like the most recent, you know, and like it that song, I mean, like I remember when she the first time I heard I'm one of one, I'm number one, I'm the only one. Like I was like, oh, okay, she sees me and I see her. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So yeah, I will play that every time I need like a little something. Uh,
A little
a
push.
little
Okay.
push, yeah. And also, I'll
Okay.
say one more. I'll say one more. I'll say one more. Recently, Two Hands to Heaven.
I love to hands to heaven. I love to hands to heaven.
Hands to Heaven.
I love to hands to heaven. Okay, cool. Who are the dream actors you want to collaborate with?
Ooh. Mm, mm. There's always been one. Viola Davis.
Okay.
I love that woman down. I love that woman down. Like I feel like she should play my mother in a movie. Like you know what I mean? Like I
Okay.
love Viola Davis. Yeah. So her definitely. And Michaela Cole.
Okay.
Yes.
Is she Ghanaian? Is she from Ghana?
She is. She
Okay.
she is.
Yeah, I think I kind of knew that. I wanted to just confirm. Okay, cool,
Yes.
cool.
Michaela Cole.
I
Like
love her. I love her. I love her storytelling.
it,
It's
it
pretty unique.
it's
Yeah.
I mean I love her down. Like I just there's so much about her storytelling that like hits me, and like I want to work with her both as a creator, as an actor, like in just all sorts of
Hmm.
things. So like, yeah, I would say Michaela Cole, I would say Viola Davis. Yeah, I'll say those two.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. What is the piece of art that has changed your life right now?
Mm.
It could be a song, it could be a movie, it could be a play, it could be a musical, it could be anything, it could be a painting.
Mm. Mm. Oh, a piece of art that has changed my life. I yeah, this is gonna you're gonna be like duh, but seeing Beyonce again,
Mm.
like, and I saw her for Renaissance. Um, and Renaissance. Okay, you know what? Cabo Carter, obviously, because I recently saw it. I made Chamber. Renaissance changed my life. Like that tour, that I saw it twice in LA because I I I always knew Beyonce as like, and this was my first time seeing her. You know, she's like a fucking superstar. We all love her. But I saw a
Mhm.
storyteller in her during Renaissance.
Mm.
Then I was like,
Mm.
oh, this is the kind of storyteller I need to be. Um,
Amen.
just like the full bodied, like excellence, like drive, like joy and like pain, like all of it. Like when she sings Church Girl, ooh, like it really hits me in a way. So I would say honestly, yeah, Renaissance was like it's something that I recently saw and experienced that like yeah, still think about it till this day.
Okay. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh. Wow. Oh, no, let me be PG.
I am screaming.
My first thought was not very PG, so let me be PG.
This is a safe space.
Okay. I mean, I just love it. I love being. I'll say I love touch.
Okay.
I love touch. I love touch, but I also love I love touch in all sorts of things. Honestly, to be more PG, I love like food. I just love food. I love food. Like I love like cooking. I love like eating like a peanut butter cup from Trader Joe's. Like,
Mm.
oh god, those like dark little peanut butter cups. If it's on the table, I'm
Mm.
eating them. Plantain chips, eating them. Like just
Mm.
all sorts of things. But I'll say touch in general.
Okay, cool. And since you mentioned food, I want to just ask this just random.
Please.
Ghana jollof or Nigerian jollof?
Now,
Uh,
now you know the answer to this.
Nigerian jollof?
Excuse me.
You know what's funny? Last time I was in LA. I don't know where I was going to, and someone took me in the ride. Like my Uber driver was from Ghana,
Oh,
and she was going on and on about how our jollof wasn't it, how Ghanaian jollof was the best, and then she pulled up a Instagram video like, "This is how we make our Ghanaian jollof." I'm like, "This is how we also make our jollof."
it's literally the same.
It's not that deep. I'm like,
Not
it's
that.
literally the same thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's so funny. We literally use the same ingredients.
Yeah. They're like, but we will blend it and we will,
Yeah,
I'm just like, I guess,
yeah.
you know,
It's so funny that
it was like, I guess
I get.
it was a whole, it was like a, LA, rides are long because of
Yeah, they
traffic.
are.
And,
Oh
but
god.
it was like a 25-minute ride of,
Oh,
but she was, if she's watching, I love you. You had a great time. You were a great,
thank you,
but
Auntie.
and she was like, oh, they're not like talking about how African restaurants in LA, that there are not a lot of African restaurants in LA for her to pick from, like
Mhm.
really good ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
It was a very interesting,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's
But
funny,
you know,
funny, yeah. Funny enough, there are a lot of Nigerian restaurants in LA.
oh really?
Yeah, a lot, a
Oh,
lot. Most of the African restaurants in LA are Nigerian. Yeah,
shout out to the Nigerians.
yeah. Y'all do. One thing about it, y'all do it. Y'all do it big.
Yes, we do.
You do it
We
big.
sure do.
You do it
We sure do
not
for
always
sure.
better, but you do it big.
It's the shade for me. It is
I
the shade for me. It's the shade for me. Before we wrap this up, I want to just ask this final question. Like, what do you want like your legacy to be as Anthony the storyteller? Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Oh, what about my legacy? I feel like I'm too young to be thinking about my legacy, but um,
We're never too young. We're never too young. And it's kind of like I feel like in the words of Beyonce, I was here. Like, when after after not 10, maybe like 20, 30 years from
Mhm.
now, because you could even have you could be a you could be a living legend who
Yeah,
has a legacy and still be alive. And so, what do you want people to remember you for and remember you by?
yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Thank you for putting that into context. Yeah, yeah. And one thing about it, like, I do want to be a living legend. I want people to know my name and go, "Oh, this is the impact that Anthony Edu has on me." Like, so yeah,
Mhm.
I'm gonna just say that first of all. Yeah, and I'll say the impact that I want to have, the legacy I want to have, is to show the to show the world, but really most more specifically, young African gay boys and lesbian girls and trans girls that they can fully be who they are. They can fully be who they are, and they can live a full life, not in spite of who they are, but because of who they are. Um, like the my story so far, it's one where I'm like, there are many times where life could have just cut me down and I could not have risen back up. But I've found myself rising back every time. I'm like, I ain't going nowhere. And so like the legacy I want to leave is that like I want to show the world that like you can be gay and black and African and still fucking make a life out of your life. Life is so short and it's so long that like why allow other people, the world, to tell you what you can and cannot do? Fuck that, you know? So yeah, like I want my storytelling to be one that encourages people and like pushes people to like, specifically queer African people, to fully be who they are and to live a
Mhm.
full life because of who they are. Um
Amen.
yeah, yeah,
That's real.
yeah.
Thank you so much. That was very profound. And just thank you for the work that you're doing, for showing up in spaces, for being your authentic self, and for wanting to elevate our stories and tell our stories. It is very appreciated, and I would put some links in the description so folks can connect with you, connect with your work, and see what you're doing. Probably drop your Instagram also so folks can follow and everything. But thank you, Anthony. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Loved this conversation. And thanks y'all for tuning in till the next episode of the podcast, Odejuma.